Another excellent episode of Foundation, and another fairly straightforward episode in comparison to where I kind of feel like after, now that we're what, 4 episodes in or whatever, I kind of feel like we've shed the complications of the first season and we're moving more firmly into a linear form of storytelling where they've taken greater care because they've had a lot more time to prepare all the various elements. Whereas with season one, they're putting it all together and trying to patch together this massive body of work and hoping it all works. And some of it worked, some of it didn't work. I feel like season two overall has been definitely a way more linear experience than the first season, which makes it, for my purposes, um, even though I've read the books one time, not in a few years ago. Um, I'm not intimately familiar with the details, but it's much easier to follow this season, I feel like. Anyway, we're going to review today's episode, but before we do, I have to, as always, put the warning out there that this is not spoiler free. So if you haven't already watched the episode, make sure to go sink your teeth in first. But otherwise, we're diving into episode 4 of season 2 of Foundation today. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. I'm going to give you your countdown to spoiler territory now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If I can figure out which fingers work. Um, this is your fair warning. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. You've got your final chance to walk away. So this episode is pretty much. I feel like this is one of the slower episodes of the season so far. So multiple storylines going on here. One of the first is, of course, the Queen of Dominion who Day wants to marry. And we find out now that she has all sorts. Well, we knew she had suspicions beforehand, but now we find out what those suspicions were, and the fact that she is definitely trying to manipulate Day into revealing whether or not he was behind the attack that killed her parents. Because before the attack on her parents, she was an unknown. She explains this to Brother Dawn because she's manipulating him as well, while her handmaiden is manipulating Brother Dusk, who she had a dalliance with some 30 years ago when he was Brother Day. So it's very interesting to note here. But when Dominion is talking with Brother Dawn, there's this moment before she gets there where she's taken off all her makeup and her handmaiden is like, it's a good trick, taking off the makeup, making him feel like, you're opening up to him and that he can trust you. And her whole thing here is her admitting to her handmaid that you've taught me in the ways of the courtesans. I'm going to use every trick in the book to get the truth out of him. I need to know what happened to my parents. And so her whole thing is she suspects that Day had her parents killed so that she would rise to the top and suddenly be this desperate queen willing to make the political alliance that Day wants because that helps him strengthen Empire's borders. So she's not stupid. She definitely knows that she's being manipulated, or feels like she's being manipulated, and she wants to find out if that's true or not. Did Day actually um, kill her parents so that she would become the desperate, needy queen that he needed her to be in order to accept this proposition? That's a very interesting note. Also, she and her compatriots find a guard in the Empire who's willing to talk if they pay him the right amount of money. And part of that is discovering, obviously, what happened to her parents, but also discovering how did Day survive the assassination attempt. That's very important because no one knows about his dalliance with the robot. And I guess that's something that's maybe prohibited or frowned upon. I know that his clones frown upon it, but I can't remember if it's societally, improper or not. I just know that it. He talked about one time when his clones were ragging him about it. Day was like, "Hey, our first Cleon did it. I should be able to do it." But I wonder what that's going to do when the truth is uncovered. What is that going to bring to the table in terms of negotiating power for the queen once she finds out the truth? Because at this point, she's doing everything she can to get as much leverage as she can because she needs it. She needs to figure out what happened. Is it the truth? Was it an accident? Was this planned? Do I need to defend myself? Is he capable of doing it again? All these things are going through her mind. So that's her storyline going there, which is, straightforward. Then we have the Hobor Mallow storyline, and they're back at the vault. They go inside. Hobor Mallow, the cleric, and cleric Kurt Polly, and the girl whose name I don't remember if they've actually ever said her name, the other cleric, and because Hober's trying to figure out her name the whole time and keeps trying to guess, as well as the warden, who is her father. And they go into the vault and discover that time works completely different inside. A couple of minutes inside is a few hours outside, and when they meet Hober inside, to them it only been a little bit, and to him it had been 2 days. And they're all worried about the sanctity of the vault and everything else. And he's like, "Yeah, well, I took a dump over that way, so don't go over in that direction." And it's just like, oh man, Hober Mallow is definitely your roguish dude who just doesn't have any time for any of this stuff. But the interesting thing is that this is as far as I understand things, this is not actually Harry Seldon inside of this particular vault. This is a digital representation of Harry Seldon, because the real Harry Seldon was in the other Prime Radiant, who got spit out during the last episode back into human form by that weird lady who we don't know who she is yet. So this is like the digital variant, and he's living inside of this vault. And what's up, everybody? Quick commercial break here to give it a shout out to our guild champions, who are the highest tier memberships here on YouTube: Ancient Entity, Assassin Gamer 94, Bubbleonia Rising, Crazy's Relative, Mujin, and Remedy. Thanks so much for the highest tier membership, and thanks to all of the members who support the channel, because you keep me doing this full time. You too can become a supporter if you're new here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Join as a member. There's 3 different tiers. We do lots of special stuff: private polls, private videos. You get a shout out if you're the highest tier membership, but you can also do one-off donations in the form of super chats on any live stream or premiere you see, and of course super thanks on any upload or YouTube short. Whatever you can contribute, it's great. Keeps me on the air full time, keeps the cats fed, keeps the homestead running. Anyway, back to the video, everybody. He brought them all in here for a reason. So Harry now gives the clerics a mission. He's like, I need you to go to Trantor, the belly of the beast, and I need you to preach the church to Empire. And I need you to sell them on us as being this benevolent entity, because we need to prevent war at all costs. We do not want war. We want to avoid a war at all costs. So rather than having Empire be all suspicious of the Foundation and wanting to wipe us out, we need to go to the Foundation and show them that we're not a threat, that we are just a different path of evolution, and to try to avoid war if at all possible, because we really don't want it. War is bad for all futures. That was a loud sip. I apologize, everybody. So they're off doing that, and then he sends Hobor off to a completely different place, which we're going to be finding out later on. Because Hobor, as he tells Hobor, sometimes you need someone who's not indoctrinated and who holds the knife behind their back while they're negotiating. Because yes, he's like, the place I'm sending you, preaching to them from a place of spiritual um, a place of spiritual growth, is not going to work. So I don't know where he's sending them. That's very cool. The other timeline is the general who's been brought back, and him going onto this planet with his lover slash officer, to find out what happened with the magicians who were here, because the clerics were here earlier and they escaped. And in the process of this, we find out that his time on that prison planet definitely changed him, and he does some things that his lover is very upset with. And he's like, "You never used to be like this. You need to be careful, because Empire's already turning you into the thing that you previously abhorred, and now you're becoming that, willing to make these sacrifices and do these things that previously you wouldn't have done." But they do find out a few important things, which is one, um, the Foundation clerics have aura devices, which they've developed on their own, which are very similar to what the Empire has. And they have slip space drives, so they're calling them whisper ships, but they're able to jump through space just like Empire's ships, but without the same need for, um, you know, logistics personnel and so on and so forth. So they've developed their own technology. And that also is very frightening to these Empire loyal subjects because it means that technologically the Foundation is becoming a threat because they could jump a ship onto Trantor's doorsteps and big bad booms and war and everything else. So again, very linear episode. Much like last week's, we're following along these sort of what is it, 4 different storylines here, and we'll see where it goes from here. This was the first episode that didn't have Lee Pace. Think about it. I don't think he had a moment in this episode. It was the first time we haven't seen Brother Day, which is I'm okay with that. But it just feels like Lee's performance has been so overwhelmingly dominant in the series so far. It did feel a little weird not seeing him, but we did get plenty of Brother Dawn, Brother Dusk. So we're still seeing Empire in all its glory, even if it's not the glory of Lee Pace. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, everybody. I'll see you next week. Drop your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on this episode. Hope you're enjoying as much as I am. Cheers.